Hey everybody, welcome to We Run on Reruns. I'm Amanda and I'm here with my brother Eric.
How's it going, everybody? We are now here into season 3 of Stranger Things, where it is episode 5, chapter 5, The Flayed. We are now in the back half. This is an 8-episode season. This is episode 5, so we're now really on that move towards what we should be seeing in, the last couple seasons, where everything starts kind of coming together a little bit. And I think this holds true to that form. This episode, we see a little bit more of communication between all the different storylines that are going on.
Yeah, that's right. And both of the groups this season are bigger, so I feel like when I'm outlining what's happened, it's always a list of 5+ people.
Well, they've added enough characters now that everybody's at least in a group of 3. Except
that's true, because Joyce and Hopper and now their buddy Alexi, yeah.
But the only one that's not really is Nancy and Jonathan. If you can count Mrs. Driscoll if you want to, but she's not really part of the group. But they unite with the boys today, so it all starts coming together.
Yeah, and I have thoughts about how that played out too.
Okay,
and we'll get to that. But yeah, because they're all at the hospital, but then they kind of break off. It felt like they could have broken off in a different way that might have accomplished more. But we'll get there. Just to kind of recap where we left things off in our last episode, we had Mike, Will, Lucas, Max, and Elle hatching a plan to trap Billy in the sauna to draw the mind flayer out. Nancy and Jonathan got fired from their internships by a possessed Tom, but Nancy continued to chase down the story. Joyce and Hopper were also tracking down the property, which could be the source of that magnetic field disturbance. We also had Erica working with Robin, Steve, and Dustin to locate the mysterious green liquid in those Chinese food boxes just before their elevator dropped, and they can't seem to stop it. We also then at the end had Billy attempting to defeat Elle, but they took him down, and he kind of ran off like an injured animal back to his lair, where we learn that they are building an army of humans possessed by the mind flayer now. And it was very
yes.
Yeah, we now know that they've been going around collecting people that we have not witnessed those events.
And so what we learn really is what the kids are about to learn today, which is, well, if there's one host, there's likely to be multiple Flayed. And that is the name of this episode, The Flayed, as they are starting to try and figure out who is and who is not part of this Flayed group. And so we start this episode here with the elevator just dropping full force into what they didn't even realize they were in an elevator, and they are dropping and dropping and dropping, and they're all freaking out genuinely, as you would imagine that you would probably. I sure would myself, I'm sure. And essentially, elevator comes to a stop. And they're all banging on all the buttons and trying to open the door, and the buttons aren't doing anything, which at this point, I think is when Robin says, listen, you're going to need a key card to open this.
Yeah.
None of these buttons are going to work without a key card, which to me makes a ton of sense. But also, I question, didn't Erica open the door with one of those buttons?
Yeah, that's a great point. How did that door, or was it already open?
If it was open, why'd Erica go through the vent? They would have just walked in. She opened it.
I can only imagine that maybe there's a setting where if it's at that other floor, it just would have been
Seems
open,
like a plot hole.
Now they're locked because they're in this hallway. Well, no, because now they're stuck Maybe it's locked because they're literally in the elevator shaft, because in this next scene, it's like we have Erica kind of freaking out, saying that she's supposed to be at a friend's house or at like her uncle's party. And Steve is saying, listen, I don't care about Tina or Uncle Jack's party. And just trying to like, listen, if we're dead, none of that is going to matter.
Yeah.
Right?
He's trying to bring some realism to the table here, where it's like, listen, we are in a Russian facility. We're not making it to Tina's. Get over it. Let's try to survive this thing. At which point Dustin, they do decide to climb out. Where Dustin knows we can try to climb out, and he and Steve go to the top and then realize it's a long way up.
Yeah, I mean, they're in the middle of the elevator shaft, so yeah, I agree. That could totally be a plot hole, but also I think it's probably pretty standard, so Robin might be off that they don't need the card, but it might just be the fact that they're in the middle of this elevator shaft. I don't know. Luckily, I've never been caught in the middle of an elevator shaft where I need to try to open the door. Me neither.
But,
and so they're climbing up and looking up, and this elevator shaft is like endless. They're not
really in the middle. They're at the end.
Well, we don't know. We don't know where they are though, really. Right? Because they don't keep dropping again.
They don't keep dropping. Right. They are at the bottom. They don't know they're at the bottom because the door won't open. But they are at the bottom. They are at the next stop.
Yeah, so it's almost like it must be on some type of auto, because when it dropped, it was probably being summoned by those people that ended up getting in later on. But yeah, you're right, Eric. So this,
I feel like this is a mistake somewhere.
I think this is a little bit of a plot hole.
Or like the button should have turned off. And then they could have been banging on it, but they're not on anymore because they're dropping.
Right.
Like something could have done something to make that a little bit more obvious that they're not active, because they certainly worked at the top without any problem.
But then we're with Hopper and Joyce, where they're continuing to explore this other house on their list. And Hopper's like, well, it looks like someone's home. So he's has his gun out, and they're going around corners. They're noticing there's a coffee cup out, there's cigarettes out. So, and there's also these light bulbs that are kind of slowly turning on and off. And they're hearing this knocking and just sounds coming, a faint humming, but they aren't able to locate it until Joyce puts her ear to the floor and realizes it's coming from below them. Well, then they quickly then decide to, Hopper's lifting up this bed just to find a staircase that is going down into the basement. Then we cut to a scene where they're showing this motorcycle dude, who I'm referring to as the Russian Terminator, pulling up to the house. And there are two guys in the basement when they go down there, and they appear to be in some type of control center. I don't really know how else to describe this. Is that kind of how you saw that, Eric?
It just looks like old tech. Like old computers stacked kind of in an area. It looks very much like what you would imagine. Because at the time, right? At the time, you have to remember, none of the computers are going to look the way that you envision the computers looking today, first of all. And second of all, they were always showcasing like Russian tech centers as using old technology for that time. So this is like old tech for the 80s. So this is like stuff from the 70s that has been like kind of compiled to make it look like this big, I'm not sure exactly what they're doing here. I believe this is where they are connecting to something, but that's all we have.
And Hopper's trying to communicate with them, and he's saying, English, do you speak English? Because they're speaking Russian back to him, and they're just not understanding each other at all. So they're not really getting any additional information from these guys. But very quickly, we see we're hearing Russian Terminator walking above them because there's just dust falling from the ceiling. And as we're upstairs with him, we're finding out that Hopper, by the time he makes it downstairs, Hopper had tied up those two guys, and now he has a gun to the back of Russian Terminator's head, telling him to drop his gun because he has a giant rifle. And this guy is saying to him, like, listen, you're not going to do that. So he can speak English. And he's telling him, you're not going to do that. Policemen have rules. So Hopper's counting to 3, though, but by the time he gets a shot off, this bad guy has dropped his head and he dodges the shot and disarms him. And now they're fighting, they're going back and forth, and Joyce, the scene.
Oh, Joyce.
She goes to lob the pistol to Hopper because he had dropped his gun in the fight, and she throws it like it's not even close. It goes way over and past Russian Terminator. It's like right next to him. So Hopper's like, oh my God, it is not good for Joyce here. And so Hopper quickly grabs one of the guys that he had tied up, and he is able to take his handcuffs off really quickly, and he actually handcuffs him to him, and he's dragging him with him as like a hostage, calling him Smirnoff, you're coming with us. And then they're running up the stairs. Hopper is putting that bed back down over the staircase and then knocks another bookshelf on top of that to try to block it a little bit more. They're outside and everything is just moving really fast. Hopper's throwing the keys to Joyce. They fall on the ground. Joyce is like scrambling to get the keys and they're inside the truck, and Hopper's just like, Joyce, drive. And she's trying as hard as she can to like turn those keys. The truck is not turning on right away. She's like, keeps, going at it, and like eventually Hopper's truck does turn and they're out of there, luckily just in time, because Russian Terminator is coming outside. He has like his gun on his hip, and he's just like throwing bullets all over the place and not hitting them at all. Thank goodness. Really, it's quite a scene.
So Russian Terminator, I looked it up while you were going through the scene.
Yes.
His name is Grigori, but I don't think we've actually heard that name yet. So just for what it's worth, that will be who that is. Also, I mean, I don't know about you. My social pages are filled with the memes of this scene. Oh. Where it's like, Joyce, drive! And then they like throw the keys 6 miles away from her. Like, he doesn't hand her the keys, doesn't toss her the keys. He throws it way out in front. Then she's got to scramble to get the keys. Meanwhile, he's sitting in the back seat yelling over and over again, Joyce, drive! Joyce, drive! And yet she's just trying to get the keys in the car that he threw far away. And it is just unbelievable. It's not a great look for Hopper. Like, he's just acting like a maniac and stressing people out for no reason whatsoever. Well, we all know that we've got to go. Okay, the guy is coming with the gun who tried to shoot us.
You're not helping.
We have to move. Yeah. Shouting in the back seat, Joyce, drive, over and over again, ain't helping anything. Okay, let's move on.
I feel like this is very realistic, though. The panic of the moment and people just freaking the hell out is just. But I mean, and Joyce and Hopper, listen, they both need throwing skills.
Memes.
Yes,
true.
They both need throwing skill lessons.
True.
Here.
This is not. The memes out there on this scene are out of control and so all justified, I think. I will say it's also, I did time check it because now we get to the credits right now, and it was 9.5 minutes. It was a long run this episode before we got to credits.
Yep.
But
if you guys haven't watched this scene recently, like this fight scene in this control center in the basement, it's very good. You should definitely go back and watch
fight scene is good.
It's good.
The escape into the truck is a little weird. But then anyway, we end the credits and we get to John waking up Jonathan with the phone ringing.
Yeah.
And the phone stops ringing. And then it starts ringing again, and it's Nancy, and it's 6 a.m., and he's like, what are you doing? And Nancy, is at the hospital, and she's trying to run down all this information about Miss Driscoll, and she needs to talk to Will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he's like, well, Will's fine. He's safe. She's like, are you sure? Where is he?
Yeah.
And Jonathan's like, well, wait, why wouldn't he be safe?
Right.
And this is all now, remember, Nancy has seen these like black veins come up through Mrs. Driscoll's neck and on her face. And she saw that with Will when they were getting the mind flare out. So she's put these two dots together quickly. And she's the only one who's done so.
Yeah.
So we then go to Joyce trying to talk to Alexi in the woods, who we now learn Alexi is his name through some sort of conversation where Joyce is trying to get him to speak English, even though he isn't. And they get some sense of understanding machine and magnet, and that's about it.
Right, and they're trying to, at this point, it's like they've driven off-road into this wooded area, and the truck is not working. And Hop is trying to fix the truck with a wrench. This whole looked it was, I don't know what he was trying to do here, but it's not
sure.
It's not good. And
it wasn't going well.
It wasn't going well. And even Alexi, he's kind of pointing and trying to tell them to stop doing, because he's having Joyce, try to turn the car on and rev the engine. It's not a good idea.
No, Alexi starts yelling, stop.
Yeah.
Because, listen, Hop is not the smartest guy, okay?
Not mechanically inclined here.
He's a protector. He is a good father figure, I would argue. He is not necessarily science-based. No. And not that cars are science-based, but they kind of can be.
Mechanical, yeah, he's not.
Mechanical engineering is part of this, right? That falls into a science category. And Alexi is sitting there this is going to go very badly if you don't stop right now. He's just yelling stop in Russian over and over again. And eventually Hopper turns around and is yelling at him because he doesn't want to hear Alexi say anything at this point in time. Then the car explodes.
Yeah, which also,
and Alexi's like, stop.
I'm not a mechanic either, so I would be pretty screwed in this situation myself. Yep. But yeah.
AAA, can you get to the middle of the forest?
I know.
I'm out here.
And I don't know if your car would really explode in this dramatic fashion from whatever he was doing, but yeah, here we are. And
I will say it may or may not explode. It didn't explode. It caught on fire. And there was an small explosion of sorts.
I don't know.
The car is still intact.
Yeah, it's almost like it flooded and things got crazy because, I don't know what he was doing with the wrench, but yeah.
Let's just say that if it was me in that situation, I'd have been walking long before they tried to. I'd have looked at the car and gone, well, we walk from here.
Yeah, well, we're done here. This is trash.
This is not something I can fix.
Right.
Yes.
And
move.
And Joyce is suggesting that they find someone who translates because they need to understand what they were even doing. But now we're seeing Elle's perspective because she's found Hopper in the woods.
This is a cool transition.
Yeah.
This is a very cool transition because you get Hopper and Joyce and Alexi walking through the woods and then it just drifts into
that black space.
Elle's vision.
Right.
Of Hopper,
right,
where she's found him. I'm like, that was kind of cool. They should do that more.
It was very cool because I had a moment where I'm like, wait, did they just like transport somewhere? And why aren't they freaking out if that's the case? Oh, wait, we're in Elle's mind. Yeah, it was very cool.
Transported. Our perspective has transported.
Yeah. And so she found them in the woods, and she's telling the guys, because remember, she's in the Wheelers' basement with the boys, and telling them that she found them, and with Max, and they're going to Illinois. And she
Illinois.
Yeah.
Like the state? Illinois. Like
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where they're going.
Apparently.
Yeah, and Mike is saying, listen, we don't have to just stop Billy. We have to stop the Mind Flayer. And the girls are in the bathroom, and Mike is then all concerned about what they're doing, and they're probably conspiring against me, and Will's all like, listen, that's what you're concerned about right now? She dumped your ass, remember that? And Max is shouting back, you guys realize that we could hear everything you're saying, right? And they're just trying to... Yeah. So...
I think the take-home point from that scene is really Mike and Lucas come to the conclusion that if we got the Mind Flayer out of Will, and yet here it still is... We can't just we have to actually defeat the Mind Flayer. We can't just remove it.
Yeah.
Because it's just going to find somebody else.
Yeah.
So we have to do something to actually stop the Mind Flayer. And also, they're both very interested in making sure their relationships are intact.
That's going to be part of it. That's right.
So these two things do not always meet up, but that both of those things are the goal.
Yeah. Because they've realized they've just kind of mowed over the weeds, but they haven't actually pulled the weed up by the root and destroyed it. So that thing is just going to keep coming back until they do that.
Yeah.
And also...
They just cut it off with scissors.
Yeah. But also then we have Nancy and Jonathan appearing at the top of the staircase. So now we know, yay, they're all coming, that group is coming together. So we're going to have all of those kids then working together for the rest of this episode. In a certain
sense. Which is really good, which I was very happy for Nancy and Jonathan, because I feel like their section of this story has been lackluster.
Well, they were, but I feel like it's key because...
It's key. Yeah. Oh, it's important.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. But I feel like their portion of this story has always been the one where I'm like, nah. I mean, the Mrs. Driscoll stuff is good.
Right.
But most of the time, it's been them getting pushed around at the newspaper, or them having an argument over whether or not they should be dating still. Yeah. And, it's like Nancy wants to keep pushing ahead with the story. Jonathan doesn't. And they've basically done that for 4 episodes.
Yeah.
Getting them around the other kids helps.
Sure.
Them specifically.
Yeah. I like that. I did like that we saw how someone else, this poor old lady, was taken out by the Mind Flayer, because we see this, as we mentioned, the army of people in that warehouse basement, but we don't, I think there were I at the time counted 25 plus people, and we had really only had eyes on Billy and Mrs. Driscoll, and then of course Tom and his wife, Heather's parents. And Heather. Yeah.
And Heather.
Yeah, yeah. So actually, I'm counting up a few people there. But it wasn't...
We had a lot of people. We had knowledge of 5.
Yeah.
We had knowledge of 5.
Yeah.
And still, even with that, I don't know that it was always super clear that the Mind Flayer controlled all of them, or that it just controlled Billy until the last episode.
Right. Yes.
I think for the first 3 episodes, there was still some confusion maybe on that point.
Well, to me, it seemed very clear with Tom
when Heather
in the last
came back
episode.
around. Well, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
But when we saw Heather at the dinner table.
Yes.
I don't know that everybody immediately jumps to, well, she's controlled by the Mind Flayer too.
Well.
Or is she just succumbing to something that Billy wants?
I did.
And Mrs. Driscoll is just like the town kook at that point. Nothing's too crazy. And then when the parents, like when Tom shows back up at the office, it becomes more like, wait a minute.
Well,
what is happening
for
here?
me, when she came out, because there was that moment where Heather like came around the corner with like the baked cookies on the tray when Ellie got there, and she's like had this super creepy smile on her face, and she's like, "You guys want some like treats or something?" And it's like, wait, okay, I don't know. That to me seemed like there's no way that this girl is just doing this from her, at her own free will. This seemed very much.
Oh no, I never expected it to be free will, but I think there's also an opportunity where you might have thought that it was just like she was almost Billy's captor.
Like she was being held hot, and he was just like threatening her otherwise if she didn't do what he wanted type thing. Okay,
exactly. Right. I think there was something in that.
Well, because you know what was different,
and maybe not. Maybe people were smarter than I am, but I think there's definitely people who would have thought that or could have gone down that road.
Right, especially first watch through for sure. And because
first watch,
what was different too is that Heather, she wasn't like sweating profusely in the same way.
No, and the other, all the other people are like visibly like shaken.
Yeah, like especially later in this episode, which we'll get there, like what we see. I mean, they all are very clearly being controlled. It's it's interesting. That is a good point. I get what you're saying there. And then we have Dustin. Or with Dustin and that group and he's saying code red over the walkie-talkie because now they're on top of the elevator shaft, Dustin and Steve, and he's trying to reach the friends, but Steve is saying, or anyone really at that point.
Not on top of the elevator shaft. They're on top of the elevator.
On top of the elevator itself, elevator shaft.
They did not climb to the top.
No, that's not going to be happening. And Steve is saying, like, listen, don't drain the battery. Do you really think Petey the mall cop is going to be coming down here, rappelling down and saving the day? I don't think so. So Erica is also back in the elevator with Robin still, and she is taking one of those green canisters and slamming it against the wall, trying to break it open. I'm like, Erica, I know that you're a younger child, but what are you doing? She seems like a very smart kid. This is bonkers to me. I don't know. This was really upsetting. I'm like, Erica, I no longer like you in this moment.
Her thought process was, because she's a smart kid, she knows we can stay down here for weeks without eating, but we need to be able to drink. And this is liquid. What? And if it comes to me dying of thirst or drinking this, I'm drinking the liquid. And I'm thinking, that sounds stupid. That's like, you're not going to drink gasoline because that's the thing that's next to you either. So what are you talking about?
What are you doing? This is crazy.
That seems so bizarre for Erica to make that statement. It is
very weird. But then there's two guys appearing in the elevator. They're hearing someone coming. So they're hiding, which this is after Steve has already decided to pee in the corner. And they're so these guys are coming in to unload boxes, and they're kind of smelling, because they're speaking in Russian, but you can tell what they're saying is like that they're smelling something in this elevator, but they're like, whatever, I don't care, and they just end up leaving. Luckily,
they're just lackeys. They're just here to get the stuff.
They have a job to do. They're like, whatever. Let's just unload these boxes. And Steve sees Erica holding that green canister. And this is kind of the whole purpose of that scene, I think, of Erica bashing the canister, because it gives her the opportunity.
It was just to remind people that they have this canister.
They have it, and then that gives Steve the opportunity to grab it really quick. And when those guys leave, he's thinking on his feet, and he puts it right under this, because the elevator is closing down. So it is about to close them in again, and he shoves it into that gap, and just in the nick of time, they're able to squeeze out. And this is Eric. This type of thing, again, is like my nightmare, because I'm like, the idea of having to quickly crawl below like a door that is probably gonna like decapitate someone if that thing doesn't hold. That's terrifying to me. And luckily they're all moving really fast just before it shatters this thing. And Erica's snack is now exploded all over the floor, and it is melting through the floor. So this is your brain on drugs.
And I like I like Robin. Robin's like, still want to drink that? Like exactly. That's no, nobody does, because it's melting the floor. My first instinct was, hey guys, step away from the fumes.
Same.
That feels like not something you want to be inhaling. But they kind of stood around it and watched it happen.
I agree.
But yeah, I do think it was strong enough to hold basically just in time for all four of them, one at a time, to roll under the door. I also think the canister happened to be just big enough for all four of them to fit under that door. Because if any of them happened to be any bigger, they weren't getting out. Like, they all fit just underneath it. So
yeah.
It was very fortuitous.
Yeah. And then we're back with Nancy and that group. And Nancy's explaining to the kids, like, hey, all of this happened with Mrs. Driscoll around 9 p.m. And they realize that Mrs. Driscoll and Heather must also be flayed, taken over by the mind flayer. And what
because
was
that 9 p.m. was
Billy.
When they did the sauna test.
Exactly.
And so if they were doing the sauna test at 9 and all this was happening with Mrs. Driscoll at 9, then they must be connected. And so who else is connected? And that's when 11 says, Heather, because she knows that something was happening with Heather. And she couldn't see it in her vision. She just saw her like drop out of the tub. And when she says Heather, Nancy puts it together with Tom.
Right. And
so it becomes like a whole, like, well, let's get to their house and figure this out.
Exactly. Because then Nancy is driving the group to Heather's house. And then we have, was it Grigor?
Grigori.
Grigori, thank you. I should have remembered that from the last watch, but yes, Grigori, Russian Terminator, is now finding Hop's truck left in the woods, and he's tracking them on foot now. And Joyce and Hopper are just bickering back and forth. And meanwhile, Alexi he starts to run off, and as they're chasing after him, they're realizing, wait, but they should probably follow Alexi because he has led them to the road. And they're looking out over this edge, and there's a 7-Eleven right across the street. So they all
Good job, Alexi.
Yeah, really. Thank goodness for Alexi, because it's almost like Hopper and Joyce were just bickering and got distracted by just, going back and forth. This is not the important thing right now, guys. You're getting distracted.
Well, this is where Hopper is still mad about the date that went sideways. Like, he's still mad at Joyce for standing him up. And I remember thinking to myself, well, that was like 3 episodes ago,
I know.
man. Like, are you still upset about this? And I suppose this is all the same day.
Yeah.
So justifiably, like, he should still be upset about that. The same way that Els should still be somewhat upset to Mike about lying, and being a different species and all that stuff. Like, all these things are happening very quickly.
Very fast.
So, people's emotions don't necessarily mend that quickly.
It's true.
But, like,
you're in survival mode at this point.
It up.
Yeah, right.
Like, you're going to keep bringing it up? Like, come on, Hop.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing for the kids, because they're like, 13. Hopper, you got it. You're a cop, dude. Like, let's move on.
Well, the kids are moving on faster than the adults are.
Yeah. Well, they're in the 7-Eleven, and they're, getting some drinks and cigarettes, Coke and beef jerky, and the kid behind the counter is asking Hopper if he's some kind of bounty hunter. He's wearing this, like, sort of Miami Vice, very a Hawaiian shirt, I guess. And he's just saying, I'm undercover. And he's he's telling then some random dude outside that they need to commandeer his vehicle. It's just this.
It's Todd.
Yes, Todd. Right, Todd. The man in there.
Todd's got a nice car.
Yeah,
and it's being commandeered for all sorts of chaos. Hopper's trying to explain to him that he's got this guy who's like murdered children, and then of course Joyce comes out. And he's like, Detective Byers. And she immediately goes into like cop mode. She like puts her hands on her hips like, oh, yes, I'm a police officer too.
Yeah.
And it's so funny.
Yeah.
Like Joyce's reaction is super funny. And then she's like, oh, yes, he's here for forgery. And Hopper's like, no, child murdering.
Yes. Child murdering and forgery, I guess. But they're pointing to Alexi, who's just sitting in the car with the biggest smile on his face, drinking like a Slurpee. So it
is quite something.
Yeah.
And then
this guy's not happy about it.
How Todd gives up the car so easily, I'll never understand. Well, but he does.
Yeah, I think he was just more taken off guard because it was a convertible, so they're just hopping in. I guess the keys were. Did they take the keys from him? Were they already in the car?
I don't know.
Either way, they're off.
But
they're just driving off with this thing, and.
I do like the license plate, Todd Father. That was nice. Yeah. Nice little touch.
The Todd Father.
Yeah. But yeah. My favorite part of that whole thing is watching Joyce turn into Detective Byers. That was good. Funny.
That was good.
Like,
yeah.
And it's funny too, because she's like 4 feet tall compared to Hop. And Hop is standing there as this big, like, menacing presence, and then she's like up to his waist. Yeah. And he's like,
Yes.
It's just a very funny visual.
It is.
In that moment.
Yeah.
To see the two of them.
Yeah.
Very much like Schwarzenegger and DeVito style.
That's right. Well, then we're back with Dustin, Steve, and Erica, and Robin, and they're all walking. So they've decided to walk down this hall, which I don't think we mentioned in the last scene, but they realize that outside of this elevator is like the longest endless hallway ever. So they're like, well, we have to just start walking down. So where else
are you gonna go?
Where else are they gonna go? But it's almost like the same as looking up that elevator shaft where you could not see even where they came from. Now they also have this crazy long hallway. So clearly wherever they are, it's hidden. It's very deeply hidden below the Starcourt Mall. And now they're going back and forth where Dustin is suggesting that the liquid is Prometheon, and they're probably using it to make something or power something like a nuclear weapon. So him and Robin are sort of nerding out about this and trying to figure it out.
They're discussing the idea that this liquid has to power something or make
which
something.
Makes sense.
And Erica is just like, oh my God, I'm getting ill at everybody's nerdiness.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And Steve is like, don't lump me in with that group.
Steve's like, hey, don't put me in there. And of course, that's when Robin's like, what, you're too cool for a 10-year-old? Like, you want to make sure that she thinks you're okay, that you're not nerdy?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, that is an excellent point. And like, Steve, who are you trying to show off for, buddy? Like, you're down here trying to survive.
Plus, I love that, like, I feel like that was, like, such an 80s mentality, too, where it's like, oh, you nerds. And now it's like, you should be honored to have that kind of knowledge, be able to drop that on this group. And hello, Steve.
I think, like, the term nerd, I feel, has come full circle. Yes. Where nerd is not necessarily, like, back then, nerd was an insult. It was the same as like being like a geek, like someone who's really smart, who knows stuff about either science or technology or comic books or whatever.
Yeah.
All of that kind of lumped in together. Now, you're a blank nerd, and the blank is whatever hobby you have interests in. Maybe you're a comic book nerd. Maybe you're a video game nerd. Maybe you're a math nerd or whatever, and people find groups. People have found, and I think the internet has helped with this, but people have found like homes with their people. You know, where everybody is a nerd of some kind.
Yeah. Well, and I did. So geeks tend to be. I think it's like you're like obsessed with
there's
a
there's
specific
definitely
thing, right? And then nerd is
Yeah.
more like you're like an intellectual. You're like you're really smart maybe about a specific topic, right? And then the geek is like they have like a massive
but I think those things
like
were
comic
interchangeable back then.
books. Yeah, they might have been right. Now we've like gotten more.
I think back in the 80s, nobody, and now it's connected to a hobby.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're a
Sure.
nerd about a hobby, whatever that thing is, model trains, coin collecting, but like, I know a lot of people that would consider themselves video game nerds.
Absolutely. But then maybe I think what that
like,
implies, though, is that they're really good at playing video games and they play a lot of video games. But then they're a geek if they have a ton of video games that are like a specific, say, retro games, or they just have a massive collection. They're like geeking out about it.
Gonna be honest with you, I've geeking out
Yep.
for sure. I've never heard anybody say they're a geek. Do you think people use that like positively?
Yeah. Yes. Yep.
Okay.
I'm a geek for whatever. Yes.
I have not heard that phrasing, but I will take.
But I've also heard nerding out and geeking out both used now as well. But
I think that's what I'm saying. I feel like they end up being interchangeable.
To your point though, too, I think a lot of this of the time, like in the 80s, I think that it wasn't really, there wasn't
in the 80s, it was an insult.
And there wasn't really a distinction necessarily between the two. I don't know if maybe geek was as much of a thing.
I'm pretty sure they were all a thing. But like all those things implied super smart or, focused on a specific thing. And now I feel like those terms have been adopted into pop culture so that even like if you're in high school right now, which I am not, and you are the captain of the football team, you can still be like an anime nerd and nobody cares.
Yeah.
Like it's a different vibe now. Like that,
sure.
or at least the terminology is different.
Well, because now you could find your community no matter what you're into,
That's what I'm saying. Like the communities are available and people don't mind having their thing that they're interested in be noted or saying that they're a nerd in a certain thing. I think kids today, if they said like they're a video game nerd, they could also be the most popular kid in class and no one would care. In the 80s, if you were a nerd, you were not the most popular kid in class.
Yeah.
You were not.
And I'm sure a lot of this also is like, your community, where you live, like what you're into, the specific thing. And I'm sure there's still,
I just think nerd has taken over pop culture.
Yeah.
But I think shows like Stranger Things have helped that.
Absolutely.
Like Big Bang Theory helped that. Like, these shows about comic books and D&D and whatever that they're based in that area have made these things more popular, which then therefore provide the acceptance of this community on a more broad scale.
And all I'm saying here is it's like, Steve, these are the people that run the world. So, you should probably continue to hang out with them.
Steve's just going to sling ice cream for a while.
Well, but then we have Dustin and Steve where they're thinking together, they sort of hang back a minute and they're saying, hey, these Russians might know about a little place called the Upside Down and maybe it's all connected here.
It's funny to see these little moments, right? Because there's a lot of new characters that always get brought in and it's always a secret that the new characters don't know about. And so it's one of those like, hey, let Erica and Robin walk on for a second. You think this is about, the Mind Flayer? Because it could be. Like that. We could be walking into this situation one more time. And they're all, the only group that hasn't really considered that is like Joyce and Hopper.
But They also saw
Joyce
on the map
knows,
that the power.
Yeah.
I feel like Joyce kind of knows.
Joyce knows something is up. She knows something is up, but they are still on the idea that it's like the government.
Hopper is by far the deepest in denial here. Like he's just not connecting the dots. I feel like at all, which is sort of
the detective of the group.
Yeah,
he's not detecting
it's insane.
anything.
These children have figured it out, Hopper.
The kids figure it out but I also think, this paralleling with our nerd conversation.
Yeah.
These kids all enjoy living in a world of fantasy where the unknown can happen, or things that would not typically happen on planet Earth can in fact happen in their games. And so when you live that lifestyle and you believe those things to be more true, it's more believable when it actually happens.
That is so true. Yeah, having still that childlike wonder as well, and loving just that type of thought process and being into this stuff is certainly working in their favor. I think that's also why, actually, Eric, to that point, I think that's also why even Jonathan is like a little bit slower to catch up to this, because it's not really his natural inclination to be in that mindset as much as the other kids. And then Nancy has, like, since she's trying to, get the story, she's just then immersing herself in it that much more. So that's where she's able to catch up faster. But we have the walkie-talkie at this point, and then starting to go off again. So they're noticing, like, they must be getting closer to some type of, either closer to the surface again, like, but they're not moving up. So they're closer to some type of power source, I guess, some type of connection. But then we also are back with Nancy and Jonathan, where they are walking into Heather's house with all the kids behind them. And this is after Elle is just opening the door after no one answers.
Well, they knocked politely a few times. I like that like Jonathan and Nancy are knocking at the door, and then nobody answers, and they both just turn, and Eleven's standing right there, and she just kind of like bows her head down a little bit, and the door flings open.
Like, do your thing,
it's
girl.
Like,
yeah.
Hey, break us in. No problem.
Yep.
Door open.
Gotcha. That's right. And they're smelling chemicals in the kitchen, and Mike is suggesting they're making something, and they're like, or drinking it, because they saw Mrs. Driscoll with the fertilizer.
Yeah.
So,
and this is where they do have a brief moment about Mr. Clark's science class, where they say, if you combine chemicals, you make something new. So that's kind of the thought process here, is that maybe they're combining these chemicals to make something new. We don't know what that is, but that's the thought.
Yeah. And then they're sort of walking through the house, and they're going into the living room and seeing the wine bottle on the floor, and there's blood, and Nancy is also remembering the bandage that was on Tom's head when he had fired them. And they're following this trail of blood into the garage, and they're also seeing a piece of rope on the ground. And Nancy is also remembering Mrs. Driscoll, how she kept saying, I have to go back. And and she's saying, if we can find the source, we can stop them. And I like the scene because they actually started flashing to the scenes showing Heather and Billy loading her parents into their car. So obviously the kids aren't seeing that, but we're getting this glimpse into what actually happened as they're working through it themselves. So we know that they're on the right track. And then Will is also suggesting that they let Mrs. Driscoll go back so they can follow her, which I think is a great idea. It's
Smart plan.
Yeah.
Like, hey, she wants to go back. Why don't we just let her? Yeah. And then we can follow her and figure out where the source of this whole thing is.
Yeah. But then we're back with Grigori. He's at the 7-Eleven buying treats and talking to the cashier, asking for information, and he's not really wanting to give it up, so he slams his head down on the counter and saying, "Tell me about this psycho," because I think he had mentioned that there was this like psycho undercover cop in here, and I mean, Grigori is clearly a very skilled tracker because he is right on their tail. I mean, he's been able to find exactly where they went. So then we're with Hopper and Joyce and Alexi, where they're showing up at Murray Bowman's bunker, which I love getting Murray back in the scene here. And Murray is not wanting to answer the door at all because he has his security cameras on them and wanting to know who is this guy. But they can't communicate with him. That's why they're there. And so Murray's then flinging the door open with his shotgun pointed at Alexi, demanding his name. And, you know, that's when we learn that Murray is then speaking fluent Russian with him.
So glad to see Murray back.
Love Murray.
Like, love having him back. And it makes sense that as soon as the guy starts speaking Russian, because he's insulting Murray to his face. He just doesn't know it, except Alexi doesn't know that Murray speaks Russian, and he just speaks right back to him. And it's like, oh, okay. All right, then.
Yeah. So they go inside, and he's using a metal detector on him. And Joyce is saying that, you know, this isn't going to work because he's certifiable, speaking about Murray. And Murray is telling them to move their lovers' quarrel outside, and Joyce is just freaking out, saying, like, telling him to stop acting like a jackass and ask Alexi why her magnets are falling off the fridge, and just really wants to understand, like, what information do you have about these crazy things that are going on? She knows it's connected.
It's just, you know, going to Joyce's level of, you know, frustration / panic / whatever. You know, she is just done with this whole thing.
Yeah.
And she's saying, like, listen, we've been shot at. We've been walking outside in 100-degree heat. We've dragged this guy here because apparently somehow you're the only guy who speaks Russian, which I don't know how that's true, but apparently you are. So would you just tell us, like, what's going on? Talk to him so I can put my magnets back on my fridge.
Right.
And I'm like, you know, Joyce, I don't think this is about magnets anymore.
Yeah, let's move past that.
I think you just know something's up and we got to get to the bottom of it.
But then we're with Steve and that group, and they're now creeping around a corner. So they've gotten to the end of this hallway, and they've seemed to have entered this, like, Little Russia.
Well, listen, this scene is a little wild, okay?
Yeah.
They come around the corner of this hallway. The hallway comes to an end, and it makes a 90-degree, like, left angle turn.
Yeah.
And so they turn. They are standing in the middle of the hallway, and less than, like, 20 feet in front of them are all these Russian scientists moving around back and forth, and there's 4 of them.
I know.
Standing right there.
Yeah.
And they're like, uh-oh, and they just duck behind this box.
Completely go undetected.
Nobody saw this. They've got Russian guards with guns standing by.
Right.
Nobody sees that this happened. So anyway, this is how Erica sees the comms room. She's like, there's a room in the back left that when the door was open, there were all sorts of, like, lights and stuff. And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
And they said, well, listen, that could be any room. Yeah. That doesn't mean it's the comms room. And I think Robin's the one who says, I'll take those odds. Like, to be fair, you don't have any other information to go on.
And where else are you going to go, right?
Right.
I mean,
so
I think that this group is probably thinking it's so hard to access this location, I guess, that how would anyone else, like, none of them are even thinking to look around? I don't know. This is so weird.
Well, how are you going to look around? How are you going to look around?
I don't know.
How do you genuinely expect to look around? You're just going to walk around and give yourself a self-tour of this place?
I know.
they're shooting you. I still don't understand how they've actually survived to this point.
Yeah, it's wild.
As soon as they came around that corner and were just standing there in the middle of the hallway, taking it all in, they should have been like gunned down by the Russian guards, who we then see on camera.
Well,
like who are watching over the scientists.
Yeah, it's very far-fetched here, but they managed to slip in to this control room unnoticed. And there's this guy.
It's just crazy. There's like 3 boxes that they all just hide behind and then like duck in because one guy happens to leave and they catch the door and get in there. When people have a hard time with season 3, it's because of things like this.
Yeah.
And I get it. I like season 3, but I get this moment specifically.
I don't get the need for them having to go through this room. Like, I think it would have been made more sense if they had just happened upon a door with the comms room that they slipped into, because then when they go in there, the guy's back is turned, right? So then they have an opportunity to jump him, but it's just, although it's not until really he turns around. He turns around.
He turns around and sees them, and it was actually really smart from Robin.
Yeah.
She stands out real quick and starts speaking in Russian,
saying "silver cat,"
and you say when did Robin learn Russian? Well, she knows the words from the code,
right?
So she first says tread lightly, and he's like
confused,
what? And then she says silver cat, and he's like what? And then she says, China?
Yeah.
Like all pieces of this code that she's like cracked. And
this guy's probably just thinking, not only do I have like the room full of children now, but now they're like speaking gibberish to me. What's happening?
Yeah. And then we get the fight scene here with Steve. Where Steve just decides, I'm going to take this guy down.
Yeah.
And Steve wins the fight.
Short
fight, but even I love Dustin. Like, hey, you want to fight?
Honestly, that was a great moment where Dustin's like, "You did it, dude. You finally won a fight." And because he's elbowing him, knocking him to the ground, and takes the phone and then knocks him out cold. I mean, but yeah, this is ridiculous. I think I can at least believe this scene a little bit more than them navigating through that huge group of people without being noticed, because I think it's just the whole confusion of the moment. And there was only one guy in that room. So at least this is like, all right, I guess I could see Steve taking him out after Robin is like, just saying all these random words to him that clearly don't mean anything to him. So whatever, even though that led them to where they are, not everyone is in on this, that portion of it. So, yeah, then we have Robin looking up the stairs, and they continue on, and they go up the stairs through a doorway where there's a flashing blue light. And then they're in another control room where there's a bunch of other people in lab coats walking around and looking at what we saw from episode 1 of this season, that giant, Eric, what would you call that? Like
I was calling it a nuclear ray gun, where they were like pointing it and shooting it at the gate, trying to open the gate.
Yeah.
I don't know what you would call it.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, again, in this scene, the 4 of them climb to the top of the staircase. They've got their faces like pressed against the glass.
Right there.
There are scientists 2 feet away from them who can see them right there.
Yeah.
In fact, one of them even turns and would be looking right at them.
Yeah.
And they're just like in awe of what's going on in this room. But I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah.
How is this possible?
Right.
The funniest thing is I can suspend belief that they have a nuclear ray gun that's trying to open a dimensional portal, but I can't get by the fact that these kids are standing in a window that is not not possible.
And they're working on something so top secret that they need to be far below this mall.
They're way underground.
But no one is on guard. There's no additional...
They have people on guard.
But
the guards are not doing their job.
That's what I'm saying. There's guards, but they're not thinking about anyone.
They're not very guardy.
They're not guardy. This is bad guardsmanship.
Bad guardsmanship.
This is, I mean, insane. I feel like Russians could get extremely insulted by watching this. It's like, what are you doing?
Well, then we have the line that made me literally laugh out loud in this when I was watching this. And we have Nancy and Jonathan and all the boys and Eleven and Max all showing up to the hospital to go visit Mrs. Driscoll to let her go so that she can lead them to the source. And Nancy, they just try to walk by, but this guard is guardy. This person, the person who's at the hospital, is for sure being like, whoa, you can't just walk by here.
Yeah.
And Nancy's like, well, I'm just going to see my grandmother, Mrs. Driscoll. And I brought my family. And Lucas is like, extended.
That was good. Lucas is like, yeah, nice.
He's like, it's like all family. And then you look at Lucas and he's like, extended.
That was, yeah.
Which made me laugh hard.
Yeah.
But then we move
and
forward. We move forward where it's like, hey, listen, you can't all go back there.
Yeah.
We got to pick some people. And I think this is where you had issues here.
Well, a little bit further up, but we had, because we had Nancy also apologizing to Jonathan in the elevator for the day before in the car.
Yes.
Just wanted to mention that really quick. And then, Mike and Lucas were at the vending machine and a Kit Kat gets stuck. And I love how 11 is like breaking it free for them. She's like, I got you, like from afar. She could tell that they're struggling.
Just like pulses. Yeah. She just hits the pulse on it. The whole vending machine empties out.
They like have all the snacks now. No.
And it's funny because I like that moment because Lucas is talking to Mike and he's like, hey, listen, that was it. Yeah. He's like, what are you talking about? He's like, that was the olive branch. That was the thing. And Mike doesn't see it. And Lucas is like, man, you're hopeless.
You are so dense.
Like, go talk to her. Like, I'll distract Max. You go talk to her right now. This is your opening.
Yeah. Lucas is the only one with game in this group. I mean, they are still like, barely preteens.
Lucas has at least knowledge of what he's supposed to do.
Yeah. Like,
might not be able to execute it, but he has some concept of what's supposed to happen.
For sure. And so Eric, my thought was, so they're breaking out into smaller groups now because Nancy and Jonathan are going to proceed to go see Mrs. Driscoll. You would think because about what they know is happening to Mrs. Driscoll, why didn't 11 go with Nancy?
Well, okay. Because, there's two things. One, they've always broken up into okay, now it's time for the older people to go.
Yeah, mistake.
The adults break off. Nancy and Jonathan and Steve go where they need to go. It's always like the older kids go first. Mm-hmm. That's always how it's worked out in this show.
You got this weapon with you. Come on.
Well, but secondly, if you take 11 away, what do you do with all the kids in the waiting room?
Right.
If you leave her there, you get to extend this relationship sequence.
Yeah.
So this is the thing. We're running this, we got to take down the Mind Flayer storyline concurrently with everybody's dating angles. And that also is probably a reason why people are not super huge fans of season 3. Because it's like, hey guys, maybe we put that on hold for a moment.
Right.
Just one day.
Yeah. Yes.
And so, but they're teenagers and that's what teenagers are thinking about more than anything else.
Yeah, not always making the best decisions here, because that's just what struck me in this scene. Is it's like, okay, if we know that we're entering a potentially dangerous situation, maybe bring the weapon with you. But then we have Jonathan.
It does make sense.
Because we have Jonathan and Nancy getting to Mrs. Driscoll's room, but she's not there, and it is a mess. Like, you can tell something went down there. There's flowers knocked over, and all this stuff strewn about. And then they turn around, and Tom is coming from around the corner, covered in blood, saying, "She's gone home, and we were hoping that you would come back here." Jonathan is acting fast, and he knocks out Tom with the vase, and then they're able to run out. But who's in the hallway but Bruce, also from the paper, and he's not looking so hot. He has the veins all over him.
He's clearly flayed as well.
Yeah. And so, but then we're back downstairs for a quick scene where Mike is asking if Elle's species likes M&Ms, and he likes her new look. So it's like you have this contrast of stuff's going down upstairs with Nancy and Jonathan, and then we have the kids who he's just like kind of flirting with her and wanting to reconnect. So I think, I do like that though, where it's like like the cute scene, and then you see like the battle scene, and they keep kind of flashing back and forth. It's well done.
They do a good job of that, where it's two different things happening at the same time, and you're yanked back and forth between like, innocent dating scene and insane battle fight.
Yeah, it's
where like, I know we have when we go back upstairs, we have this phone ringing where Nancy's finally able to like lock a door and get in this room, and she picks up the phone and she dials the desk, but the person there who stopped them does not see that the phone is ringing. So we have our second then The Shining, like glass door breakthrough.
Yeah. And Eric, my other thought with this, where I struggled here with this scene, is that when we go back upstairs and Jonathan and Nancy are running away and realize the entire hall has been attacked. And I'm thinking, did they not notice this before they even got to Mrs. Driscoll's room?
I guess I viewed
How
it
did they
as
miss this?
I don't think so. I think it's plausible that you could have missed it, in the sense that you came up like a different angle. Like, I did not envision that they walked
the other half of the hall. Okay.
Well, like there's, I've been in a number of hospitals where you can come up one side and never see the other side. There are all sorts of different ways to get to certain places.
Yeah.
So it's plausible that they didn't come through this direction to see all this stuff, because I guarantee you that if they had seen this stuff, they would have stopped and taken some note.
Yeah, been a little bit more concerned before they even got to her room. It just 100%. It just struck me. I'm like, that seems a little bit weird. So yeah, we'll definitely go with that. I mean, it's the only explanation here, and but Jonathan and Nancy are then locking themselves in a room, and this is where, like what you're saying, they're trying to call reception, but she's on the phone. She is tying up that line.
So they break through the door like The Shining again, right? Like right through the window.
Yes.
And as they then reach in,
Drew.
Open the door, come in. The thing that I found very interesting here is Jonathan gets cracked with like a steel stool, like just bam, right in the back.
Could like shatter your spine. And I'm just thinking,
he's done.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he's done. He's done now.
Yeah. Like, you're not getting up after that. Like, this was really bad. Yeah.
Jonathan's not controlled by the mind flayer. He doesn't have any like superpowers.
No.
He's just a kid who got whacked. And he's not even like an athlete.
And this is after he was already head-butted too. Like, he was head-butted,
he's taken some hits already.
Taken down, they slam a chair down on him. Yeah, and then Nancy, though, is able to find some scissors, and she stabs Tom in the shoulder blade. And So she is running away from him, and he is
Which
doing
essentially, like, the only thing that really does is prevent Tom from killing Jonathan on the scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
It does get him to then chase her.
Yep.
But then other things happen.
That's right. Yeah, because she's running away. And you have that, like, classic, I feel like, horror movie trope where it's like he's slowly stalking her down the hallway, but see him as she's
running,
like,
he's walking.
Yeah.
Yeah. But somehow he catches up to her.
Yeah.
Yeah. In every single horror movie that's ever been, like, this is how this goes.
Yeah. And he's saying, Nancy, and she gets in a separate room and grabs the fire extinguisher and is just holding it. And Jonathan is trying to get up, but he is stopped again by Tom. And we just keep flashing back and forth between the scene with Nancy and the scene with Jonathan. So Nancy is like hiding behind a hospital curtain, and Tom is meanwhile throwing Jonathan into a wall. So now he's continues to get tossed around like a rag doll. It's rough.
Jonathan is getting demolished here by Tom.
Yeah.
And Bruce is chasing down Nancy.
Yeah. Nancy Drew, where are you? But Nancy, she has that fire extinguisher and she knocks out Bruce with it. And doing this also knocks out Tom. So this gives Jonathan...
the hive mind is connected.
Yeah, so that's now coming in handy, and it's giving Jonathan an opportunity to get up. Somehow, I'm guessing it's extreme adrenaline at this point, and stabbing Tom right in the throat. And at this point, all the lights go out. And downstairs with the kids, all the lights start flashing in the hall, and the kids are actually no one else is really noticing this except
Will is noticing.
Oh, thank
Will
goodness
is looking up at the lights going, something's going on.
Yeah.
Something is going down.
Yeah. The rest of them, I guess, distracted by their hormones. I don't know. Will is like, guys, but he's not saying anything yet.
Anybody else noticing this? Because, I feel like this is notable.
Yeah.
But then both Tom and Bruce, who have been completely wiped out, start convulsing and pulsing, and their like bodies turn into this goo slime type substance, and they start sliding away, much like we saw the rat body kind of slink out of the cage and start making its way away.
Yeah.
And these two bodies come together in the middle of the hallway as Nancy and Jonathan have kind of each followed one of them out. And so they're on each side of this as it comes together. Lights go out, and then lights come on, and there's this mind flayer-ish looking monster that's screaming in the hallway.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. That monster was terrifying. That was definitely, I feel like, seeing that appear at the end of the episode was the highlight for sure. And just seeing this whole fight scene, unrealistic as it was definitely very gripping. It was very intense, and and now it's like, how the heck are they gonna get out of here, right? So we're left with another good cliffhanger on wondering how they could possibly escape this thing.
Absolutely. Well, now we're going to jump into our IMDb ratings and our favorite and least favorite characters of the episode, where we compare our ratings with your ratings as they are on IMDb. And with that, you just mentioned that you thought this was like the biggest, most important moment here, this mind flayish monster. It's like the gripping moment. It's the big ending that kind of pulls everything together, right?
Yeah.
And while I'm with you on that, it absolutely was. It was a really good ending to the episode. Like the last 5 minutes was really good. There were a lot of points in this episode where I'm just like,
Yeah.
All the Hopper and Joyce stuff, like Hopper was just driving me nuts. Joyce was at least making it light. Murray showed up. That was nice. the Steve and Dustin and Robin stuff while they're walking down this hallway is like, okay, not great.
Yeah.
Not bad. It's just kind of like mid.
Yeah.
And even the boys and Nancy and Jonathan, like, I at least enjoyed watching them piece it together at Heather's house and then get to the hospital. And then, of course, all of the action-packed sequence at the end was very good to watch.
Yeah.
But I feel like there were some real lows in this episode. So it's definitely not going to get a higher rating from me. But we'll start with our favorite and least favorite characters. And I hate to pile on, but I'm going to give it to Hopper again as my least favorite character in this episode. Yeah. I just feel like, he's not helping at all. If anything, he's standing actively in the way. The best thing he did was commandeer the Toddfather car. And that's it. Thoughts?
Listen, I do not disagree with that. It's this episode, the more we actually talked about it, I enjoyed watching it through again, but it's like, there were a lot of like, even just going.
There were a lot of low points.
There were a lot of low points and stuff where I'm like, dude, that was just a bad choice. Like, you know what?
Well, and there were too many things that for a sci-fi show where I can suspend belief into all sorts of different avenues.
Right.
To know that like the kids can just hide behind a box and get through an entire Russian military like I just can't believe that. That does not make sense.
And I also just what I really struggled with so much was that the moment with Erica where she was bashing that canister against something and suggesting that she drink it. Like, I just feel like Erica's character is just smarter than that. It just didn't make sense. Especially like, what, had they been in there for like how many, like maybe a couple hours? It wasn't like they were starving to death at this point. And even then you would know that this is not something to drink. This is not edible.
You would think that just by looking at it.
So
who's your least favorite character?
So
then?
I went with Erica, just so not to pile on. I easily could have also gone with Hopper. I also had a moment where I was thinking, 11, you should be suggesting, I'll go with you, Nancy. I felt like 11 should have known to go. But I don't feel like, I think that Jonathan and Nancy just made that decision for them. I wasn't going to put that on 11, but yeah, so I could have gone with a few people as my least favorite in this one, but
it was a lot harder to pick a favorite character than a least favorite in this one for me.
Yeah.
I didn't have anybody that I thought jumped way off the page as my favorite from this one. Like I said, I enjoyed watching the episode much like you did, but it just had a lot of things where I didn't love different character choices or I found things too unbelievable.
Yeah.
I was down to 2. I had both Joyce for her Detective Byers.
Oh, as your favorite. Yeah.
No. The gun wasn't good, but the Detective Byers and trying to get some information out of Alexi and then finally like flipping out on Murray and actually getting something done.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that was at least something that I was interested in watching, but I am going to ultimately give it to Robin.
Okay.
I really liked Robin's like talking with Dustin in the hallway, being the logical one with Erica, like, what are you trying to do? Break this thing open. This is a horrible idea.
Right.
She's the one, like I said, she's nerding out with Dustin in the hallway, trying to come up with a reasonable answer. She's putting Steve in his place because he's trying to look too cool for a 10-year-old. Then she's the one when they get in the room that starts speaking Russian and actually buys a little bit of time to do something. So I'm giving this one to Robin.
I agree. I think that's a good choice. Yeah. I like that and totally justified. I went with Nancy for knocking out Bruce which gave Jonathan the opportunity to somehow get up and not get killed.
She's wanted to knock out Bruce all season long.
Love that, right? It's like, you know what? I know that you're flayed and all, but yeah, here you deserve this in many ways. Yeah, that was great. So love Nancy in the scene. I mean, thank goodness. I mean, Jonathan would have been dead, and I feel like if it wasn't for, I was on the fence with picking Joyce too for those same reasons that you listed, because it's like, if it wasn't for Joyce, Hopper would not even be close to on the case here. He would probably still be back with his truck, and I don't know, have caught fire himself. It's crazy, but. Yeah, we'd love to hear from you guys. Like, what do you think about this episode? And are there moments that really were too much for you? Were you able to just, suspend your disbelief and roll with it, and you still love this episode regardless? I mean, just really curious to get everyone's thoughts. I know for me, my rating was definitely lower on this episode than for others, as I normally have been like rating it higher as these episodes are rolled on, and I love where we ended. Definitely excited to see, to continue on with the rest of this season. But
the last 5 to 8 or 10 minutes of this episode saved my rating.
Yeah.
For sure. What did you end up giving?
I gave this one a 7.8. Okay. I was kind of between really a 7.5 and a 7.8. I was in like the mid sevens, but because I still did like that last portion for sure. But if we hadn't had the scene at the hospital, I think I might have even been like in the low to mid sevens. So I look back. And I gave the very first episode, Susie, Do You Copy, an 8.0. And that's the one where I was like, I don't like what anybody did. I don't like what anybody did in this episode, but I still enjoyed watching the episode. Well, I enjoyed watching this episode more than that one. So I have to go higher. I'm not going to go a lot higher than that. But I just think it was definitely, for me, on the lower end of episodes this season. So I'm going to give it an 8.2. Yep. I think even beyond, for me, it was just frustrating because I feel like the plot didn't progress too much. I mean, we learned some new things. I like the addition of knowing that Russian Terminator is now stalking them, and he's after them, after Joyce and Hopper as well. And they have their new friend with them, Alexi. The big discoveries were, like, the big plot movement pieces, in my opinion, are connecting Murray to Joyce and Hopper, and learning a little bit about Alexi, getting Nancy and Jonathan connected with the rest of the gang, and knowing that the Mind Flayer is back. Like, they all know it. And so they're trying to track that down, and also seeing that the Russians are forming a new gate. And now, not only do we know that because we as viewers we knew that they're working on something, but Dustin and Steve know that. And it's like, I guess that would, and Robin and Erica see it, but I don't think, but they can't possibly even know what they're looking at. And in fact, I don't even know if Dustin and Steve never saw a gate. But Dustin knows what's going on. Yeah, and Steve might not, but Dustin sure does. I mean, and they know, both of them know in their gut that this is all connected. But it just, it was tough because I think, the writers are probably struggling with, how do we get these kids into like a secure facility to witness this? Because that was the whole purpose, is for them to see, hey, this is what's going on under this mall, I think part of why people, I say people dislike season 3, right? The ratings are not that different. They are slightly lower, but not a lot. And I'm curious what this one got. We'll see where these next 3 episodes like clock on the rating scale. But I think the idea of going from,
getting Will back from the Upside Down and fighting the Mind Flayer and trying to get the Mind Flayer out of Will to we're now going up against another country.
Yeah.
Seems a little far-fetched, but I don't know that it's that far-fetched because you have to remember this is the 80s and the Cold War was a big deal and everybody was exploring everything to try and get a leg up on the other. And so I think that side of it hits true. Mm-hmm. It just probably doesn't ring true for a lot of people who don't remember that.
Right. Yeah.
And to me, my favorite pieces of this are all like mall-centric. Yeah. The nostalgia of the mall pieces is great. I love it.
And we really didn't get any of them all in this episode because there
was not really.
Yeah.
We'll get back to it.
We will. But yeah, Eric, I'm very curious how this was rated on IMDb. What did the people say?
Okay, so I have the rating here. The people, remember, you gave it a 7.8. I gave it an 8.2. The people have spoken, and they gave it an 8.5.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting.
So the people in general liked this one more than we did.
Okay.
And I feel like I'm just maybe a little hypercritical of it.
Yeah.
But it's still, by the way, this is now, though, one of the few episodes that the fans have rated lower than the previous episode.
Yeah, okay.
They gave the last one an 8.9, and they came down too.
Yeah.
So most of the time, it's just straight rise. It's all rise, as Barney would say. Yeah, like 8 like last season was 818285858 8919293 when I take out the Lost Sister episode, which was awful. Then this season it's 78798289 So like if it had been going the same way as the others, this would have been a 9. This is not a 9.
No. And really, again, it's like us just talking through a lot of this stuff, I think just makes some of these details stand out more to me. So definitely more critical of it than I stand by my rating. Watching it the first time through, but yeah, I do as well. But yeah, look forward to how they possibly escape this monster in the hallway. Elle has got to get involved at this point, right? So
one would think. If I was Nancy or Jonathan, my first instinct would be to run as fast as humanly possible.
I imagine that is probably going to be the scene similar to how we cut right to the elevator scene. I'm thinking that's where we're going to be, is them sprinting, getting...
The thing is, they're on opposite sides of this thing. So if we turn on the next episode and they're right next to each other running down the hallway, I want to know how they got next to each other.
Oh, no.
How'd that happen?
Yeah, well...
They're like, you guys just hurdle the monster to get on the same side? And then No. Also, Jonathan, you've been hit with a steel chair.
How much are you running, dude?
How fast are you really running at this point? We'll see.
Let's try not to... I'm going to try not to think about that too much. Ouch.
Well, thank you so much for listening to the We Run on Reruns podcast. Please follow us on our socials, our Instagram and TikTok and YouTube channels. We really appreciate all the support you guys have given us there so far. Please hit those like buttons and share with your friends. We really appreciate it. You can also check out the full episodes of these podcasts on our website, werunonreruns.com, as well as on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your other favorite podcast players. For Amanda, this is Eric. Enjoy watching episode 6 of season 3 next week. Happy rerunning, everybody.
See you later, guys.